All right, this is the video for the extra examples from section 3.1. Starting with this one right here, we're doing the distance and the midpoint formula. That's what the directions say to do. So remember, the distance formula is d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That's related to the Pythagorean theorem. And then the midpoint formula is that you average the x's, so you add them and cut it in half, and then you average the y's, which means you add them and cut them in half. All right, so let's do this for part B and C. So the distance formula for this one would be y2, which is -2, minus y1, which is 2, squared, plus x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is 6, squared. This would be -4 squared plus 0 squared. We work out the squared parts next. So this is 16 plus 0. We add them together and then we take the square root. And this one actually ends up being a perfect square, so the answer is the distance is 4. For the midpoint, we would add the x's together and cut that in half. Then we would add the y's together and cut that in half. That becomes 12 over 2 and 0 over 2. So this is 6, 0. So there's the midpoint. Same thing for these 2 points. The distance formula would work out too. And I think I did the y's first up there, but that doesn't matter. Sorry, I did do y's first up in this one. The formula doesn't matter if the y's or the x's come first. It's just like a squared plus b squared is the same thing as b squared plus a squared in Pythagorean theorem. So this time I'll try to do it the right order way so you can follow along. So we're doing the x's first. So 0 minus -4 squared plus -8 minus 7 squared. That is plus a 4, so that'd be 4 squared. That is -15 squared. So this is 16 plus 225. If we add that together, I'm getting 241. We want to double check to make sure there's no perfect squares that can go into 241. So let's see, 241 divided by 9 does not go evenly. 241 divided by 16 does not go evenly. 241 divided by 25 doesn't work. What about 36? No. 241 divided by 49, not going evenly. 241 divided by 81, no. And 241 divided by 100 wouldn't work. 11 is 121. That doesn't work. And notice we're almost down to nothing. If we try 12 squared, that's 144. If we try 13 squared, that's 169. So it's pretty much looking like there's no perfect square that's going to go into this. Now let me double check my math real quick to make sure we didn't make any errors. So we got 0 minus -4 is 4, -8 minus 7 is -15. 220. Let's just make sure I have my perfect squares right because I did do that in my head. 15 squared is 225 plus 16 is 241. Yeah, so as long as this doesn't reduce down, we just leave it in radical form. Okay, and then the midpoint. The midpoint here would be -4 plus 0 divided by 2, 7 plus -8 divided by 2. And that's going to be -4 divided by 2 over -1 divided by 2. This would be -2, -1/2. Okay, and then we did 3 in class, so we're going to do 4. This is supposed to say find, not final. So find all points on the y-axis that are a distance of 6 from the point P, 5, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Here's P. We want to be 6 away from that on the y-axis. So when we draw our dotted lines of where is this distance going to be, we're drawing two y-axis points. So I don't know if it's going to cross down here below or not, but I'm questioning where could this possibly cross so that it has a distance of 6 on this dotted line and a distance of 6 down here. So since we don't know what these points are, we make up an arbitrary name for them. This is a y-intercept, so a y-intercept is always a 0 and then a y value. So since we don't know the y value, we're just going to call it y. Same thing down here. This could be represented as 0y. So the distance formula, remember, if you write it without the square root, it's d squared equals x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That's just taking the square root and squaring the other side. So the reason I do that is because it's a little easier to plug in these cases. So my distance is 6, so 6 squared equals, and this was the 0.53. Typically I like my y value to start first when I do that part, so I'm going to start with 0 first here for x. So 0 minus 5 squared plus y minus 3, just makes it cleaner. That would be, this is 36, negative 5 squared would be positive 25. You do not need to FOIL this out. Subtract the 25 over. This is 11 equals y minus 3 squared. And now because this is something squared equals a number, we can take a square root and put our plus or minus in. So this is plus or minus the square root of 11 equals y minus 3. We'll add the 3 over. And so we get two different values for y. Now we want to write those as points. So remember they are 0, comma, number, because they are both y-intercepts. So this is 3 plus the square root of 11 and 3 minus the square root of 11. We do not want to change those to decimals unless they ask us to. And that is the end of this video.